Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. This is my final Books Beside My Bed video for 2023. Full disclosure, I am filming this on the 30th of December, so I do technically have 2 days left, but I have a project that I'm reading for today that's not counting towards my 2023 stats, and I also have already picked the book that I'm going to end the year on. We're not surprised by this. So essentially that means I can wrap up this year's reading with this video and have it go up on New Year's Eve, and I'm very, very excited about that. And for anyone who comes at me in the comments and says, no, Steph, it's not New Year's Eve, that's because I'm in the Southern Hemisphere. Trust me, it's New Year's Eve when this video goes live. And also because this is the week that includes that very strange week between Christmas and New Year, I read 14 things. So let's talk about them. I'm going to start off with some middle grade titles. The first one being The Bother with the Bonkillyknock Beast by Karen Foxlee. This is the third book in the Miss Mary Kate Martin's Guide to Monsters series, which is a middle grade fantasy-ish story, still set in our world, with Miss Mary Kate, who is a young girl who deals with anxiety and goes on travels with her mother and grandmother and ends up having to solve mysteries involving monsters in local towns. In this case, she goes to Scotland and is staying in a very old castle for a monster hunters convention with her grandmother. And there she discovers that something is stalking or haunting the castle. And it is up to her and her new friends who she meets at the conference to try and figure out what's going on. These are fun, fast-paced middle grade stories. They are on the slightly longer side, so be aware of that. But I do like that they travel to different places around Europe and are looking at different myths and monsters that have been told in stories through time and incorporating them into mysteries. Thank you to Alan and Unwin for sending me this. This was a review copy. I also read It's the Sound of the Thing by Maxine Beneba. This is a collection of 100 poems for young people. And while this is technically middle fiction, you could also up this and include young adults and adults alike, because I really enjoyed this collection of poems. And it focuses on very relatable kind of poetry for younger kids, including school and friendship and growing up. There is also a bit of an exploration of being black. And what I love about this is it's not just one kind of poem, there are multiple kinds of poems in here. So haiku, sonnets, narrative verse, rhyming couplets, limericks, free verse, tongue twisters, etc. And Maxine Beneba also includes a very handy guide at the back of the book that tells you which ones are which. So this is perfect for primary school teachers who are teaching poetry units. But I absolutely loved this, and I was reading it for a project that's going up on Little Bookish Teacher early in the new year. So stay tuned. I also read another middle grade title because apparently this is my week to just start churning through some of the books that I didn't get to in 2023, and that is The Goodbye Year by Emily Gale. Again, this is for the same project that I was reading It's the Sound of the Thing for, and this one is a story that is set in a Victorian primary school during the pandemic and the lockdowns, so be aware of that going into it. It is about Harper, whose parents are both nurses and have gone off to be emergency nurses over in Yemen. So she is staying with her grandmother. And of course, this being her final year of primary school, this has a significant impact on Harper, but she begins to become closer to her grandmother as a result. She also begins to realize there are some strange things happening around her primary school. She begins to be followed by this very old cadet pin. Like it just turns up wherever she needs it to be. And there may or may not be a ghost that's haunting the school library. And so it's Harper diving into trying to find out who this ghost might be and why they are haunting the library. There are links here to World War I, and it also makes links to both the pandemic from 2020, but also the Spanish flu. So there are some really interesting historical sort of links in this book. All the while, Harper is going through her final year of school. She's dealing with bullying and with her friends who are both school captains, constantly being busy. Isn't it nice that the sun just decided to come out and blow out my video? That's so nice of it. We'll close the blinds in a minute. It is a really, really wonderful story, particularly given that Year 6 can be a particularly complicated time in children's schooling. So yes, this was a really, really interesting read. I've had it sitting on my TBR for ages. I'm so glad that I got to it before the end of the year. Okay, I also read of Pixes and Promises by Lana Pecherczyk because I thought I was done with the Fae Guardians series because that was one of my series to finish before the end of the year. And then right as I finished Book 9, this novella came out, and this was a novella that was part of an anthology for Babe this year. In all honesty, I didn't know it existed, but anyway, it came out, so I just read it because it was short and easy to read. It is a bit of a Fern Gully inspired pixie story. It is enemies to lovers, because we have one of the humans who has been hunting the Fae, falling for a pixie princess who is trying to protect her forest. It was very short, very sweet, and just part of this greater world. I think it falls in between books 6 and 7, and yeah, I read it. I also read books 1, 2, and 4 in the Christmas Falls interconnected standalone series. So you might remember that I read book 3 for my Christmas hockey romance reading vlog. So the first book in the series is Grinch Kisses by DJ Jamison. These are all romances. And so this one is about Griff, who is a divorced dad who is basically the coordinator of the town's Christmas holiday event season, which runs for months. And it's his relationship with Logan. We figure out very quickly that Griff is very much a grump of a character and Logan is very much his counterpoint. And the two spend a lot of time trying to coordinate and make sure things run smoothly during the holiday season. There is bisexual rep in this book because Griff is bisexual, and there is also a subplot where he doesn't see his kids. And the one thing about this book that I kind of wish, because this is like, they're very easy, very comfortable reads. Like, they're not anything angsty. But this one did have the plot where he doesn't see his kids, but doesn't really explore that in any great depth, which I would have liked to have seen more of that and to see why he hadn't put in more effort, if that makes sense. Much of a muchness. It was a very short, quick, easy read. The second book is Snowbody Loves Me, which is one of my favourite titles in the series. This is by Jacki James, and we follow Arlo, who runs a B&B, and Emerson, who is an author who unintentionally buys a ticket to Christmas Falls, thinking that he is going to catch up with his girlfriend who's going on a Bahamas trip, I think it was. And he gets to the airport and she finds she's already got someone else going with her. And so he ends up going to Christmas Falls, and he has, doesn't have the right clothing because he's packed for going somewhere hot. And he ends up stranded in the town because no place has any open rooms available because it's the holiday season. And so he's forced into staying with Arlo, who happens to have a room available for a couple of nights because the couple that were coming in have been stranded and they can't get to the town, so they're running late. And Emerson is very quickly charmed by this town, very much so, and realizes that Arlo is a very beloved member of the town, and the two of them start their relationship. This one was just really fun and cute and just highly entertaining. 4 is Silent Night by Beth Bolden, and this one kind of continues part of a subplot that we found out about in book 3. We have Jem Knight, who is an NFL player. He's very popular and he's originally from this town, but he's been injured, and so he's back staying in town, and they ask him to basically be the marshal for all of their Christmas events, which he is not the most Christmassy of guys and is kind of just doing it because he really legitimately does not have anything else to do. He's also working through the fact that this is probably his last season and he's sitting it out injured, and that his best friend, who he also plays with, is probably retiring. So their last opportunity to play together is done and dusted. So he comes back to town and he gets to talking to this guy at a bar. And it turns out that this guy is Murphy, who is one of his childhood best friends, who he hasn't seen in years and has grown up and filled out and is almost unrecognizable to him. But the two hit it off, and Murphy ends up becoming the person to help Jem out at all of his marshalling duties throughout the holiday season, which forces them together. It forces Murphy to admit that he's always had feelings for Jem, and for Jem to recognize that maybe Murphy has been what he's been looking for the entire time. I did love that this one had no third act breakup. It was great. It was really, really fun and enjoyable because we got to see more of the behind the scenes of the Christmas Falls events. I also read Mistletowed by Zariah L. Banks. This was another Christmas novella. And this was about Preston and Mia, who end up kind of in a forced proximity kind of situation. Mia's car breaks down and Preston owns one of the local auto shops, I think. And he ends up helping her out, but she's very put out because he was late, so it's cost her some business, and in exchange he offers to hire her. She's an interior decorator, and he invites her to kind of come up with plans for his workplace, and so they begin to spend a lot more time together in that way. This one does feature miscommunication quite heavily, so a big chunk of the complication in this involves them not communicating and not talking properly. But it was short and fun and cute, and an author that I hadn't tried before, and I was really glad that I did. I would definitely pick up something by them again. I'm wondering if they have slightly longer form titles, because this story could have been sort of spread out over a few more chapters at least. I also read an arc of Not Here to Make Friends by Jodi McAlister, which is book 3 in the Marry Me Juliet series. I loved this book so much. So the Marry Me Juliet series is a reality TV dating series that follows 2 different couples who are all forced together because this season of Marry Me Juliet is being filmed during the pandemic and during lockdown. And don't worry, it doesn't harp on as much about the pandemic insofar as it's telling us that they are forced together and they can't leave. So it's all set during the same season, so we get to see the same events from different perspectives, which didn't bother me in this way because we get such vastly different perspectives in each book. Book 1 is the hero falling for an eliminated contestant. Book 2 is 2 of the contestants falling for each other and is a sapphic romance. And this one is the producer falling for the villain of the piece. And as it turns out, Lily Fireball, who is the villain of the show or the season, is very well known to Murray, who is the producer. And it turns out that they had known each other for 14 years. But content warnings at the very start of the book, we find out that Lily's husband has died. And this kind of sends her a bit into a spiral, and Murray doesn't hear from her for a year. This story is told in 2 perspectives. Lily's is their relationship from the very first time that they meet 14 years in the past up until the present day. Murray's perspective is everything that happens when Lily walks back into his life at the beginning of this season of Marry Me Juliet. It is a really interesting look at reality dating TV shows. I've said it many times. I don't like reality TV. I hate reality dating TV shows, but I love this series. Jodi McAlister is clearly A, fan, and B, an expert at all of this, and she has woven a really interesting story, particularly looking at how reality dating TV shows craft love stories, and how the people who are doing that have to manage the people who are involved. So it's really interesting. In the previous 2 books, I think we've kind of been built up to just think of Murray as being this very run ragged, stressed out producer. And in this book, we get the reason why that's the case. And we also have Lily, who is a very complicated figure because she's playing the villain. She's intentionally doing it. She knows what she's doing. It's a very deliberate choice on her part. And sometimes that clashes with maybe what you would think as being morally the right choice. So there were times when I was just so angry at her for some of the decisions that she's made, while also still understanding why she's doing it. And honestly, Murray and Lily are 2 of my favorite romance characters that I've read in the last little while. Their relationship is very complex and it's not always smooth sailing, and it was just a wild ride. I really, really enjoyed it. I also read Cruel Seduction by Katee Robert, which is book 5 in the Dark Olympus series, and I have to say, I don't know how I really feel about this book because parts of it felt like it dragged. And I don't know whether it's just because I'm so used now to Katee Roberts' books that nothing surprises me, and so it took me a while to pick this up because I'm like, is it just going to be like the other books? Which is not to say that I don't love Katee Roberts, because I do. I think she does amazing work, particularly in the queer romance space. But yeah, I don't know if I'm becoming burnt out on the series. I do have Midnight Ruin as an arc to read, and I'm curious to see where that one goes, so I will keep you posted in the new year about that. But this one is the polyamorous relationship between Aphrodite and Hephaestus, as well as Aphrodite's previous relationship with Adonis and her relationship with Pandora, who is the best friend of Hephaestus. And at the start of the book, Hephaestus is basically their enemy. He has killed his way into the role, so he has a target painted on his back. But as the story progresses, we realize that all of the 13, so the ruling leaders of Olympus, have targets painted on their back now that it has been revealed that there is a clause that says if you kill a member of the 13, you can take their place. Does it have great steamy scenes? Absolutely. How is the plot? I mean, there's a plot. I'm kind of curious because I feel like Katee has revealed who the big bad is. And I mean, at this point, we're only like legitimately halfway through the series because there's 9 books. I'm sure it's a red herring, but it could also not be. And in which case, I don't know what the build-up is going to be if it's the case. I don't know, I'm very conflicted about this. And then finally, I read A Marvelous Light by Freya Marske because I found out that Freya Marske is Australian. And I also was able to get this audiobook off Libby, so I've been listening to it over the last week or so. So this is a queer historical fantasy, which there's only one key word in that description that fits my reading taste, and that is queer. But because this was an Australian author and I'd heard Robin talking really highly about the series, I really wanted to give it a shot. And it was a really enjoyable story. So in this one, you have Robin Blythe, who finds himself working in a public servant position where he finds out that there are magicians and people with magic in the world. Something he'd never considered. The person that he has guiding him through all of this is Edwin Corsi, who is a magician, but he has very little magic. And so that has caused friction between him and his family his entire life. But the two end up being forced together when Robin is cursed because someone believes that he can help them find some magical objects that are going to help increase the power of magicians in London. Now, they don't realise at the time that Robin knows absolutely nothing about this world, but Edwin and Robin begin to investigate, and this sends them on quite a few little adventures, including an opportunity for Edwin to be able to actually garner some more magic in a totally unexpected way. And along the way, they begin to fall for one another while also dealing with the complexities of London high society and the magicians of London, and how all of this has a massive impact, particularly because Edwin's family are very interesting characters with very interesting morals. But it's part romance, part mystery, part quest, and I really enjoyed it. And I wasn't sure whether books 2 and 3 follow the same couple. I'm assuming Edwin and Robin are going to turn up in the other books, but book 2 is about Robin's sister and book 3 is about Hawthorne. So I am very intrigued to continue this series sometime in 2024. So that is it. That is my wrap up for 2023. I will leave all the books linked down below, and if you've read any of them, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. If you would like to let me know that you're here but you don't leave a comment, feel free to leave a light emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy. I hope that you have a wonderful new year, and I will see you in 2024. Bye everyone.